First of all, I just want to thank everybody for participating for the last 2 days. I think the OHDSI APAC Symposium this year is actually a really important milestone for the broader global OHDSI community. You know, at the start of the year, members of our community, we were all eager to get together and see each other in Europe, and then at the European Symposium in Oxford, and then we were all excited to see each other together at the U.S. Symposium in Bethesda, and then we're all excited to get together in China for the OHDSI APAC Symposium, and none of those things worked out. But as a community, we've really persevered and created a tremendous opportunity to collaborate and figured out creative ways to continue to build our community, and even in spite of all of the challenges that we have. So I want to thank all of you for participating and joining the journey as part of this. For the last 2 days, you've been able to hear from leaders within the OHDSI Asia Pacific community. You heard about the work that as a community we've come together on COVID-19. You've heard about some of the ongoing Asia Pacific network studies that are going on, and you had a chance to engage with each other as it relates to the regional chapters, to think about what you can be doing locally as well as regionally, and then hopefully bringing all of that work back to our global community. I want to specifically acknowledge the contributions that several of you made as part of our OHDSI Collaborator Showcase for the Asia Pacific Symposium. There were 7 great posters that were submitted specifically for this event. I had the good opportunity to review those ahead of time. And if you didn't get a chance to take a look at them, I encourage you to go out to the website. We've already posted these posters out on ohdsi.org. And you can go check out these posters and see the work that's being done in the community. You know, as much as it's good to be able to come and talk, the most important parts about these meetings is learning from each other about the work that's going on, to identify network collaborators, but also to learn about the scientific work that's been happening in the community. And it was great to see some of these works highlighted today. You know, it was about a month and a half ago that our International OHDSI 2020 Symposium was held, where we would have normally been getting together in Bethesda, and instead we ended up having a 18 consecutive hour virtual event that allowed us to span and have active participation not only in the United States, but we actually started the International Symposium in the Asia Pacific time zone so that all of you could join us. We went all the way through our European time zone so our colleagues there could join us, and we ended up finishing up in the United States. And to put together 18 hours of consecutive content was a lot of work, but demonstrated what was possible when the whole community comes together. And as is typically has been the case with a lot of our OHDSI events, a real highlight of that was our Collaborator Showcase, where all of you came together to share the work that you're doing, the work in progress, the work that's been completed, and to learn from each other and share the work that has been done. And this year during our virtual Collaborator Showcase, we had 85 different posters, 10 software demonstrations, and 12 lightning talks that were made available for everybody to partake in. If you didn't come to the symposium, or you didn't have a time to go check out all of that work, it's all currently available on the OHDSI website. Here's a screenshot where you can see, if you want to go to the Global Symposium, you can check out all of the content that took place last month. And of course, the event we're in right now is highlighted on the front page of the OHDSI website as well. But one of the things that we actually typically like to do is to have the community reflect and react to the work that they see at the Collaborator Showcase, and to award those contributions that are recognized by the community as particularly notable. And so it's my distinct honor now to announce the OHDSI 2020 Symposium Best Contributions in our four categories. The first is to honor our 2020 Best Contribution in Observational Data Standards. This was a poster entitled Clinical Trial Data Conventions for the OMOP Common Data Model by Chris Roeder and an extended group of collaborators. And in this work, there's a lot of interest in thinking about how clinical trial data could be reused, but that can only happen if we come up with an appropriate approach to standardizing that data. And so I think that this work is valuable to recognize, because it shows how a data model that may have originated with a focus on administrative claims and electronic health record data and clinical registers could potentially be useful in other applications. So congratulations to Chris and the team on that. Our 2020 OHDSI Symposium Best Contribution for Methodologic Research was voted by the community and awarded to Amelia Everett and Adler Perrott for their poster, Noisy or Risk Allocation, a probabilistic model for attributable risk estimation. And Amelia actually came and presented this at one of our recent OHDSI community calls, and I would encourage you to take a look at this work. She's introduced a novel approach to thinking about causal inference that represents a valuable focus on attributable risk in a way that we don't typically do in our studies. It was nice to see Amelia's work recognized. Our 2020 Best Contribution in Open Source Analytics Development was for the poster entitled Large-Scale Evaluation of Treatment Effect Heterogeneity in Hypertension by Alex Reckes and the team at Erasmus. Alex's work is very impressive because he's been able to bring together both population-level effect estimation tools as well as patient-level prediction tools, and bringing those together to try to identify whether or not subpopulations have differential risks. And the fact that this tool is now available for everybody to use is a big step forward in the community. And so I think it's certainly a worthy recipient of this award. So congratulations to Alex. And the 2020 Best Contribution for Clinical Applications was awarded to Lisa Evans. Lisa presented one of the lightning talks and presented about the OHDSI Alexa skill for a personalized COVID-19 outcomes risk calculator. And actually my Alexa that's sitting right next to me I can't get her to shut up right now, because what Lisa actually did was built a real Alexa app that allows us to use the cover prediction model that was developed during our study, COVID-19 study-a-thon, to allow patients to actually be given their own personalized risk of being hospitalized. And it's a pretty amazing contribution made by Lisa. So very proud and congratulate her for this accomplishment. I would strongly encourage you to take a watch of her lightning talk that she eloquently delivered when introducing this to the community. So OHDSI is an open science community, and you heard for the last 2 days about a lot of the community's accomplishments and what we've done, but what I'd like to reflect on for the last couple of minutes is what it means for us to be a community. Our mission is to improve health by empowering a community to collaboratively generate the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. And I hope one of the things that you came away with from the last 2 days was how here in the Asia Pacific region, as a community, you all have the ability and are delivering on the opportunity to collaborate and generate evidence that can promote better health decisions and better care. Not only that, but you have the opportunity to contribute not just to local and regional efforts, but to global efforts, whereby knowledge that can be gained in the Asia Pacific region can inform health around the world, and knowledge that is generated around the world can be brought back into the Asia Pacific region. And I think that the leadership that many of this team has demonstrated in this space provides a very clear, tangible example of why we need to have local thought leadership, but we also need global collaboration to advance this mission. At the start of yesterday, I talked about the journey from data to evidence and the challenges that are represented, why it's difficult for any one person to be able to go on this journey by themselves to go from data to evidence. But I'd like to maybe digress for a second to talk about the word OHDSI. My wife continues to challenge me about the fact that OHDSI, when pronounced, may not pronounce OHDSI, but I feel like it's extremely appropriate for us. Because the definitions, if you look in the dictionary, you'll see that an odyssey is a long journey full of adventures. And it's a series of experiences that give knowledge or understanding to someone. And so that journey from going to data to evidence is certainly can be adventurous, and it's certainly intended to elicit knowledge or advance our understanding. But I can tell you that the journey that I've been on within the OHDSI community has also helped to advance my knowledge and understanding, not just of healthcare and the evidence that we can generate, but also how to be a better researcher and how to be a better community member. And so I'll highlight that my journey across the Asia Pacific region has touched a lot of different things. And actually, it doesn't start in Asia at all. It actually started in Montreal, Canada, back in 2013. I actually have this email when Dr. Ray Park asked to get together with me after having several collaborations with Martijn Schumi. And when I met with Ray, what was immediately apparent was his ambition and vision. We discussed some of the early work that we had done in OMOP and how it would be theoretically possible to bring together different databases. And Ray just steadfastly said, well, I need to go back to Korea and do that for the entire Korean population. And that ambition and that drive was something that I took and I learned and I admired. That just matter of factly, you could say, if we've got a good idea, we should just go after it in earnest. And I appreciated and was motivated by Ray and still am to this day. Later that year, I had the opportunity to go to Hong Kong and go visit Dr. Ian Wong. And one of the things I took away from those early interactions with Ian was his openness and sincere willingness to collaborate. And what I was impressed by was a recognition early on that while Hong Kong University is an esteemed institution with a renowned medical system providing care for patients, it was clear that that data set was likely going to be insufficient to answer many of the questions that was of shared interest. And yet data from other places probably wouldn't be relevant to answer questions that matter to patients in Hong Kong. And so Ian's foresight to recognize that openness and collaboration was going to be the way to be successful was something that I took away and learned as part of my experience. I also remember at that Asian conference on pharmacoepidemiology seeing Nicole Pratt for one of the first several times. I had been watching Nicole from afar. She probably doesn't even know, but like I sat in many of her presentations that she had given at ISPE the previous 3 years, and I remember thinking that they were some of the best presentations at the ISPE meeting. And just like a month before I saw her at this meeting, she had published one of her papers on symmetry analysis, which I thought was a very thoughtful and elegant piece of work. But I remember seeing her in Hong Kong because I asked her, what are you doing? What are you going to be doing during these sessions? She said, well, I'm going to teach a class in R. And I said, well, all the work I've ever seen that you've done, you're a SAS programmer. And she said, yeah, I program in SAS. And I said, but you're going to teach R. She said, yeah, I thought it'd just be fun to do something new and different. And I remember at that time admiring the courage of someone, the enthusiasm to go after something new and different because it could be fun. And that stuck with me to this day. Fast forward a little bit in time, the International Conference for Pharmacoepidemiology was held in Taiwan, and I got to meet with several collaborators that we were working with, including Edward Lay and Kiyoshi Kumato and Soko Sakatushi, and we were working together to think about how could we create an Asia Pacific data network that would use the OMOP Common Data Model. And we were trying to apply the OMOP Common Data Model to data sources that had never been standardized to any common data model. And within the Aspen network, which many of you were involved in, early on, there were lots of conversations about whether or not a common data model would make sense at all. It was bumpy times when we were trying to figure out how to standardize analyses across Taiwan and Hong Kong and Japan, in addition to looking at US data sets. But one of the things that I learned and experienced from that experience was persistence. Because we started this project and it was challenging and we were not really making as efficient progress as we wanted. That was back in 2014. Just a couple months ago, yet another paper came out of those initial collaborations. Due to the thoughtful and hard work by Edward and the team, we've continued to try to educate and disseminate the insights that were gained. Not all of those necessarily have to be slam dunk wins about how everything's perfect and easy. Sometimes it's just about continuing to push forward to try to advance the science one step at a time. And I appreciated that experience to learn about persistence from them. Fast forward a little bit further, I had the opportunity to go to the OHDSI Korea meeting in 2017, where Chan was our gracious host. I remember vividly going to have an eel barbecue dinner with Chan and colleagues. But more importantly, what I recognized there was the tremendous potential of bringing together senior scientists and junior scientists, bringing together people who could actually have the collective combination of excitement and enthusiasm and interest and intelligence. In the case of Chan, having clinical expertise and technical expertise and unparalleled work ethic. And I hope when I grow up, I could be half the researcher that Chan already is as a junior scientist now. But he's certainly an inspiration to me and many in the OHDSI community for the contributions that he has already made to this community. But it's also a demonstration that bringing together the right skills as individuals and as teams can go from learning about a possibility to executing and leading in a very short amount of time. Last year, I got to learn a lot from Mui and Kristen and Lingyi when we held the OHDSI Food and Study-a-thon. And what was amazing there was what I learned mostly was about how we can build a community, how we can use opportunities to communicate and share and teach each other. And those opportunities, when we're thinking that we're doing the teaching, are actually the opportunities where we can actually do a lot of learning. And it's really exciting to see that exercise, when Kristen and I tried to suggest that there might be the possibility that together as a group, we could go after an interesting clinical question of their choosing, that right now we're polishing off a manuscript looking at endometrial cancer that came out of the students in the class teaching us a lot about the clinical phenomenon and how we could apply those clinical insights to the OHDSI network. Towards the end of the year last year, we had the OHDSI Korea Symposium in Gyeongju, and when we were participating in this session, what I learned a lot about was what it means to actually have true, legitimate national collaboration. And what Ray and the team were able to do by bringing many leading medical institutions together and agree that for the good of public health, we had to collaborate together, sets a role model example, not just for what national collaboration could look like, but what regional collaboration could look like in the Asia Pacific region, and what international collaboration could look like around the world. I'll also never forget the night of karaoke we had after the OHDSI Korea meeting, and I will not fully disclose who is the worst singer, though they know who they are. And that journey has led us to today, where we're holding a key milestone moment of this OHDSI APAC 2020. But we're not in Taiwan or Hong Kong or Korea or China or Japan. We're everywhere. And we've got people joining us right now from all around the world. Because while this is an Asia Pacific symposium, there is interest in what's going on in the Asia Pacific region, in North America, and in Europe. Around the world, there are researchers in epidemiology, statistics, clinical sciences, informatics, who are all interested in the work that this collaborator is doing, interested to learn from you and interested in collaborating with you so that we can collectively advance our understanding of healthcare and deliver on public health questions. So while I strongly am excited about this important milestone of us coming together as a region, I actually want to encourage all of you to continue to stay focused locally, but also be thinking globally about the opportunities and the opportunities that you have to make a contribution at every level within this broader community. You know, the OHDSI community, we continue to say that we're all in this journey together, and we do indeed have now thousands of researchers around the world that are trying to advance our mission to collaboratively generate evidence that will improve medical decisions in healthcare. But you know, we show these maps with dots. I personally much prefer to see this. I like to see the faces in the community. And these are the faces of those people who opted to participate in our COVID study-a-thon earlier this year. And you see smiling faces from around the world, including leaders here in the Asia Pacific region. What collaboration means to me and what community means to me is about coming together to address shared questions of interest. That's why I'm really excited that one of the things that you all accomplished this week was set some shared goals and objectives so that you can align your efforts to try to focus on what's important. And I look forward to collaborating with you to think about how we can even deepen that alignment with the broader global efforts so that we are able to work as one community to solve some of the big problems that we're all facing. You heard a lot today about the work that OHDSI has done in COVID-19, and we're excited about the fact that we've built this large data network of data sources in North America and Europe and Asia. And we have the largest resource of patient-level data on COVID that has been assembled in the world to date. You heard from George about all of the papers and Kristen about all of the papers that have come out to Charybdis. I'll tell you the thing that's impresses me about our community is how so many people are coming together to collaborate to generate this important work and try to disseminate it through publications, other means. You heard actually just earlier today that Lisa Evans was recognized as a best community collaborator. What I love about this story is that we started with a prediction model developed by researchers in Europe. The first place that we could, in fact, validate that prediction model was in Korea, where because of the generous contributions of individuals as well as the Ministry of Health, the HERO data set was made accessible so that we could externally validate a model in some of the freshest COVID data around. And the fact that a model developed in Europe and externally validated in Asia went all the way back to a high school student in Pennsylvania who could take that information generated by the community and develop this app so that everybody, including notable people who said, I've used that app now because I needed to know the risk of a loved one in my family. That's something really special that we have in the OHDSI community that I want to see us all continue to work for. And if we continue to stay focused locally, but we can think globally, think about the fact that an idea in Europe can make its way through an analysis in Asia, can make its way into the hands of a high schooler in the United States, and can make its way now globally and be accessible to hundreds of millions of people who could potentially benefit from the evidence that we generate as a community. I also want to recognize the leadership that's coming out of the Asia Pacific region. It is a big deal that Chan published this paper in JAMA. It's a big deal for me. I really wanted to have a JAMA paper, and the fact that I could ride on Chan's coattails to get there, I very much appreciate. But what this demonstrates is that leadership can come from anywhere. It can come from anyone. And it is hard work to produce high quality evidence that is important for healthcare. But it's possible. We've demonstrated it time and time again. It's possible. And we're getting better and better at doing this. And so I encourage you to be similarly inspired as I am by the work that Chan has done, but also to say, how can I do that? How can I be the leader to bring something not only to the Asia Pacific region, but to the world? Because these opportunities are available to us, and all it takes is focus and collaboration. So with that, I want to leave you with, I hope that you've have enjoyed the journey of the last 2 days. I hope that you'll continue on the journey with me and the broader OHDSI community. I wish you a good rest of your weekend, a good rest of the end of 2020. I personally am looking forward to saying good riddance to 2020 and eager to work with all of you in 2021 as we continue to advance our shared goals and missions.
Hey, Patrick, before we go, there was a question in the State of the Community presentation earlier about new chapters joining. Is that's a possibility, right? We always welcome new chapters like Thailand or India or any other new chapter, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're on this call and you're participating, and you say, hey, my country or region isn't represented by a chapter, we would love for you to create that local, regional focus and join the broader global effort. The reason we want to have these regional chapters is because we recognize that that local language matters, that time zones matter, that working on local problems can help you motivate some of the broader questions. So we certainly encourage all of you to participate actively in your regions and regional chapters. And if a chapter doesn't exist yet, we encourage you to step up and lead it to make that happen. But also encourage you, in addition to be thinking about your regional opportunities, to also join me and Mui and all of the APAC leaders in all of our broader efforts, and encourage you to participate, to watch, to actively contribute, to lead. All of these opportunities are available to you as part of this community, and I want to encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities. With that, Mui, I guess I'll give you the last word.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending the Asia Pacific Symposium. Thank you very much. We do look forward to everyone joining us next year for the next Asia Pacific Symposium. One of the things I do want to bring out there is to help unite the Asia Pacific community. We will be starting Asia Pacific community calls in January. So look out for that on the announcements of the Odyssey pages or from your regional leaders. With that, I want to say thank you and have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.